evening's forum. On behalf of Power of Public Education Lafayette, I would like to welcome you to the forum on exploring the school performance score. How does it affect our children? It is sponsored by Power of Public Education Lafayette. PPEL is a not-for-profit organization of parents, educators, and citizens advocating for effective and equitable public schools in Lafayette Parish. PPEL forums provide information from subject area experts and offer an opportunity for members of the community to engage with the information, ask questions, and build understanding in order to take action. Thank you all for attending the forum tonight. We hope it will be one of many to come. We welcome your input and hope, if you have not done so on the way in, that you take the time to give us your contact information so we can include you in future events. Thank you also to the Clifton Chenier Center for allowing us to use this excellent facility. Here with us tonight to inform and guide our discussion of Louisiana's school letter grade system is an esteemed panel of experts currently involved in administering the system, as well as experts who have contributed to the academic understanding of Louisiana's accountability system. Presenters at our forum tonight are, from this end of the table, Tom Spencer, Director of Accountability for the Lafayette Parish Public School System, Noel Hammett, retired Professor of Education from Louisiana State University and former President of the Louisiana School Board Association. He continues to contribute to education research in Louisiana and maintains a blog on public education in Louisiana. Dr. Frank Del Favreau, Professor of Education Administration and Policy Studies at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He has made important contributions to education scholarship in the areas of measurement and assessment. Finally, Dr. Patrice Pujol, Superintendent of Ascension Parish Schools and the former President of the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents. She currently serves as a member of the State Accountability Commission. We thank you, panelists, for giving your time tonight to address people's goal of increasing citizen understanding of major education policy issues. Acadiana Open Channel is taping the forum, and they will be running the program on AOC at a later date. The program tonight will begin with 10-minute presentations by each of the 4 speakers. There will be time for questions after the speakers have finished their talks. Please hold your questions to the end. I encourage you to write down your questions while you hear the presentations and try your best to make them concise. Our next and last speaker is Dr. Patrice Pujol.
See if I can get it going here. I'm sorry.
Top middle. Slideshow. Click.
There we go. Different perspective than our other panelists in that I kind of wear 2 hats here. First, I'm a superintendent, I've been a principal, but also I'm on the Accountability Commission. And so I've been watching this whole unfolding of accountability for a long time. And so you might ask, I mean, why do we have accountability? What's it for? And what should be included? And I'll tell you that the commission is made up of a lot of different perspectives on that question. And so you have community members and parents and business owners and business leaders who will say, well, we need some transparency around how our kids are really doing You have educators who will say, yeah, we have all these other factors that you don't understand. And so you kind of have these competing voices around this idea of accountability and what it means. And I'll tell you that a lot of the things that have been raised tonight, the commission is actually grappling with right now. And through the years has grappled with at different points. And it's the whole idea of what does make a good school? What is a good school? How would we define a good school? And part of that is, I think that gets at some of what the other speakers talked about, is what is the role of status achievement, where are kids right now, versus progress. Are the kids making progress? Are they indeed improving, learning more, growing? And I think that's something that we are grappling with in our state and certainly on the commission. So when you think about what a school looks like and whether it's a good school, right now, as Tom indicated, the only progress that's really figured into the school performance score is at the bottom end. And so if kids are not proficient, then you can get progress points or bonus points added if you bring the kids to proficiency. But there's been a lot of discussion about, is that enough? Is that really telling the story that we want to tell about our schools? And should there be maybe progress figured into the entire system? Or should there be some other factors in the system? And just to give that some clarity, let me talk a little bit about what we are grappling with in the commission. You can see that this is from the commission's timeline. You can see that the things we're working on right now are progress versus status and what impact that has on district and school performance. And then also, how do the evaluation of teachers and leaders play into this? Because that's a whole other piece of accountability. We have school performance scores, but you also have teachers getting performance measures based on how much value they add to students based on the standardized tests. And so those are all things that we will be working on. Additionally, as if it's not complex enough, over the next 12 years, the state has determined that we will move the bar on proficiency from basic, where it is now, to mastery. And so the commission also is grappling with what will that look like? How will we raise the bar? Do you front load it? Do you back load it? You know, how does that look? And so there are lots of things in front of the commission that have very strong implications for our schools and our districts. But just to give you a tale of two schools, I mean, look at this. If you look at the the top school, it had a letter grade, high letter grade, A, but 0% of the teachers were highly effective on their value added, and they had no change in their percent proficiency. But I will tell you that on the back end of that, I'll tell you that I have schools that are A schools where you might only have, out of 800 kids, 20 kids that aren't proficient. So it's hard to move how many kids you have proficient. You have to really start looking at how many kids are you moving up the ladder into mastery and advanced. But then look at the bottom school. It's a C letter grade, but it made 10% proficiency increase, and over 80% of the teachers were highly effective on their VAMP score. And so you ask yourself as a parent, which of these schools is a good school? Who's moving kids? Who's serving the needs of kids? And that's a question that we grapple with. As a superintendent, I'll tell you that Ascension Parish is a microcosm of the state. Sometimes people look at Ascension Parish and they think, well, they're kind of wealthy and, of course they're doing well. We are an A school district, but we have some of the most affluent communities in the state, and we have some of the most impoverished communities in the state. And I'll tell you that some of the data you've looked at tonight indeed is mirrored in Ascension Parish. Certainly on the top end, our affluent schools are our A schools. I will tell you though that we several years ago created a turnaround zone, and in that zone, we have managed to change the dynamic a bit on what that looks like, and have moved schools to a point that we do have some schools that have 80% poverty that are B's and C's now. They're not all D's and F's as they were originally. This graph just kind of shows you some of the same thing about the tale of two schools. All of the green, those are our lowest performing schools. The blue are our high performing schools. You can see that our low performing schools improve their school performance score year over year, almost without exception, at a much higher, greater rate than our high performing schools do. However, it's not enough. The bar keeps raising and you can't ever seem to catch up and get to the high level. Interestingly, we have started a program where we've taken teachers from our highest performing schools and had them come into a leadership academy in our lowest performing, most impoverished community. And the comments I get from those teachers are, oh my goodness, if these kinds of things were happening in the A school I just left, we'd be blowing the top off of the accountability system. So there's definitely, we have examples across the state of low-performing schools that are doing things, extraordinary things, that are moving kids, but you just never can, they're so far behind, it's hard to move them to a point that you're going to get at that really high level of performance. And I tell you that there are implications that go with this for our accountability system. If we put progress in at all levels, what would that look like? It's one of those things, be careful what you ask for. I have heard superintendents and district people ask for years, well, they ought to base this on how much we grow kids. Well, the first time we put any kind of growth factor in last year, you heard the hubbub around the state. It was crazy. And so, you know, the devil is in the details. If we go to a progress system where we give value to schools that really move student achievement beyond the expectation, what will that look like? Are we then only going to identify another set of low-performing schools? So, you know, there's a lot of interesting dynamic around that. I've also heard that there is, heard the possibility of what if you gave 2 letter grades? What if you gave a letter grade for status, for where kids are at right now in the moment, and you gave another letter grade for progress? So that's a possibility. And these are all things that the commission's grappling with, and I'll tell you that how the commission sees this varies greatly depending upon the role of the individual commission member. We have people who've been on the commission since its inception, who are strong industry and business leaders, who think it should all be about status and transparency, and it shouldn't matter where kids come from. Conversely, you have educators who say, wait, there are all these other factors. And so it really is dependent upon the role where folks come down on. The other thing I'll say is that, you know, when you look at classroom teacher accountability and what that system looks like, interestingly, by the state's own measure, there is no correlation between the percentage of teachers who are highly effective on value added and school performance score. So you can have these teachers that are moving kids like crazy according to the assessment, but the school performance score is not moving to top levels. And again, in our district, I will tell you that there is a correlation, but it's not the one you think. Because of some extraordinary measures we've taken in terms of who we put in our lowest performing schools, most of our highly effective value added comes in our lowest performing schools in Ascension Parish. But we get some schools up to higher levels, but we can't get our most impoverished ones up. We started out with 8 D and F schools. We now have 3 Ds, and the rest are B's and C's of those 8. And certainly, you will see that even though within what we call our turnaround zone, the Ds are most impoverished community. 95% free and reduced lunch, you know, lots of barriers to learning, generational poverty. Our B's and C's are less poverty, more transitional poverty, and you certainly can see the distinction. And so, as you think about this, and we look at what is important in an accountability system, these are all things we have to grapple with. And then when you add in the measure of raising the bar on accountability and what makes proficiency over time, then that brings a whole nother discussion into it. So if we can't make it with our most impoverished kids at the current proficiency level, what is our shot of doing it at the mastery level rather than at the basic level? So that will be a whole discussion that will have to be had. I do appreciate the fact that the state says we'll take 12 years to determine that, rather than that we're going to go there tomorrow. Usually they think a long time is 2 years before they'll get there. So I do appreciate that, but I will say I think that's going to be a major challenge. So I just wanted to share with you, this whole idea of growth versus status and what role should each play in our accountability system. And I think some of the data presented earlier will suggest to you there are some factors that really impede a school's ability to produce high status in the moment. And my experience as superintendent is that we can generally produce growth, much harder to produce high levels of proficiency with kids who are way behind to start with. Thank you.
The preceding program was made possible in part with production assistance provided by AOC Community Media.